Welcome to this explainer. So, what if I told you that literally everything you think you know about how your own mind works is, well, totally backwards? Let's dive right in and deconstruct the core mechanics of Buddhist philosophy by looking at how the mind actually operates. We're going to look closely at the ancient texts, break down the actual structures of our minds, and map out exactly how human suffering is built and, more importantly, how it's dismantled. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the human on fire, the three Dharma seals, the Four Noble Truths, the dependent origination loop, and finally, the Noble Eightfold Path.
All right, part one, the human on fire, a total paradigm shift.
Let's challenge a really deep intuition we all have. Be honest, do you kind of secretly view yourself as a stable machine? You know, like a smartphone that's just glitching and needs a quick software update so it can run smoothly again? We all do it. We think, oh man, I'm just a bit stressed right now. I just got to fix this one little part of my mind and boom, I'll be back to my normal self. But as we look at the source texts, we see this is exactly the assumption the Buddha argued against.
Here's the real game changer. The Buddha absolutely did not see us as broken machines. Instead, he saw us as dynamic, burning fires. We're these whirlpools of phenomena that don't actually need fixing, they need extinguishing. Think about it. A machine has a solid chassis, right? It has permanent parts. But a fire is just a pattern. It looks like it has continuity, but literally nothing inside it stays the same from 1 millisecond to the next. The goal isn't to optimize the machine. The goal is to stop feeding the fire.
Which brings us to section 2, the three Dharma seals, examining the fuel. So if we aren't this solid, dependable machine, what actually makes up a person? Well, the Buddha broke human experience down into 5 dynamic processes, which he called aggregates. Think of these as the literal fuel heaps that keep our personal fires burning. We've got form, our physical body. Feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tones. Perception, how we recognize and label things. Mental formations, our habits and reactions. And finally, consciousness, just bare awareness. If you take a snapshot of a human being, this is all you're going to find. There is no hidden driver behind the wheel. The driver is really just more of these aggregates flowing together, constantly shifting and changing. And this is illustrated beautifully in an ancient text called the Anattalakkhana Sutta. It was essentially the Buddhist's second major teaching. He basically argued, hey, if your form or your feeling were truly you, truly under your complete control, you could just command them. You could say, let my physical form always be young and healthy. Let my feelings always be happy, right? But you can't. And because you can't fully control them, they are ownerless processes. They aren't you.
This launches us right into the deep discourse of the three Dharma seals. It goes like this. First, every conditioned thing is impermanent. It changes. Second, because things inevitably fade and break down, clinging to them causes massive friction. In the text, this is called dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness. And here is the ultimate breakthrough, the third seal. Because everything is impermanent and unsatisfying, there is absolutely nothing in this changing stream of experience you can point to and honestly say, yes, this is my eternal, unchanging self. It is fundamentally not self.
Okay, moving on to section 3, the Four Noble Truths, a clinical diagnosis.
Now, the Four Noble Truths. This is so important. This isn't some abstract metaphysical belief system. It's actually a highly structured, almost clinical medical diagnosis. Notice how the Buddha acts just like a master physician here. First, he identifies the symptom, dukkha. That's the painful heat and damage of being on fire. Second, he isolates the cause, craving. That's the hand actively throwing gasoline onto the flames. Third, he gives a positive prognosis, nibbana. He says, yes, this fire can actually go out. And fourth, he writes the prescription, the path, exactly how to stop feeding the flames. And we really need to clear something up about Nibbana. It is not some magical heavenly realm that you travel to after you die. The word literally translates to extinguishing, or the fire gone out. It's that exact moment the fuel supply is finally cut off and the fire of suffering just stops. Think about it. You don't put out a campfire by punching the flames, right? You put it out by stopping the flow of wood and oxygen. When craving stops, the fire simply goes out because it has nothing left to consume.
Let's dig into section 4, the dependent origination loop, the mechanics.
We've looked at the parts, but now we really need to see the wiring diagram. How exactly do our minds catch fire, moment to moment? Well, this timeline shows the causal chain. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. You can't stop that initial flash of annoyance. That's just contact meeting a physical feeling. Everything up to that raw feeling stage is totally automatic. But, and this is huge, a feeling does not have to turn into craving. That tiny millisecond gap between feeling something and craving a reaction, that is exactly where ignorance traps us, and it's exactly where we need wisdom to step in.
If we miss that gap, clinging sets in, and out of clinging comes what the texts call becoming. Picture a bow that's been drawn all the way back, tension peaking, ready to fire. A feeling happens, our craving grabs onto it, and suddenly, out of nowhere, we construct this temporary self to be the one who is offended, or the one who desperately desires something. This charged up momentum, it literally turns your present grasping into your future reality.
So how do we fix it? That brings us to Section 5, the Noble Eightfold Path, the treatment.
To actually treat this condition, we can't just sit around and casually meditate. We literally have to rewrite our mind's entire operating system. The Noble Eightfold Path groups this massive undertaking into 3 interconnected trainings: wisdom, ethics, and meditation. Now, the deep discourse here is that this is a simultaneous, interlocking system. It goes like this. Right view, deeply understanding this reality of the fire, motivates ethical conduct. When you stop harming others, it clears your conscience. That steady, guilt-free mind, that's what actually allows for deep concentration and meditation. And finally, that concentrated mind sees reality even more clearly, which cycles back and deepens your wisdom.
The sources make a really fantastic point here. These aren't 8 separate stairs that you climb one by one. You don't just graduate from ethics, check it off the list, and move on to meditation. No, it's like 8 strands of one single rope. They constantly generate each other, twisting together to pull you out of the fire. Around and around they go, each turn cutting a little bit deeper, until intellectual understanding blossoms into a full penetrative realization.
So the crucial takeaway for us is that mindfulness isn't just about paying bare attention to things. It is actively watching your feelings through the very specific lens of impermanence and non-self, to actively dismantle our own ignorance. Listen, if you just passively watch your feelings, you're just being attentive. But when you apply right view to those feelings, you actually catch the grasping right as it's born, and you can just drop the fuel. You starve the fire.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty profound question to chew on. If we really aren't permanent, solid machines, but instead we are ownerless processes of burning fuel, what exactly is left when that fire is finally extinguished without any residue? The source text suggests it absolutely isn't annihilation. Instead, it's action flowing freely out of pure compassion. Why? Because there is literally nothing left to defend and nothing left to acquire. A life without craving isn't a life without purpose. It's purpose, but without the hunger. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep questioning, keep digging, and I'll catch you next time.